Welcome to this edition of The Edge on 2xzone.com. I am joined by independent wrestling star, founder of the IWF Wrestling School in West Paterson, New Jersey, Kevin Knight. Kevin, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, Jason.
You've got a big show coming up for the IWF. It's one night only, all for charity. So talk about the show a little bit. What prompted you to put this together?
Well, I was at a fundraising kickoff party for the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life charity, and I was invited by the mayor of our town, Mauro Tucci, in Nutley, New Jersey, and some of the people on the fundraising committee I graduated high school with, so they asked me to come down to the meeting and see what the IWF and myself could do to help raise money for their charity, as well as create awareness for the big 6th annual walk-a-thon that they do in May in Nutley each year. So a good way to raise money for the Relay for Life, as well as raise awareness for the American Cancer Society, would be to put on a big wrestling show. Back where it all started for the IWF, in Nutley, New Jersey, where we originally began back in March of 1998. So here we are, 14 years later, where it all started.
So who do you have planned for the card?
Well, we have a double main event. We have WWE Hall of Famer Tito Santana. He'll be taking on former IWF American champion, the Outlaw Shane O'Brien, in a good old-fashioned Texas bull rope match. We have one half of the legendary tag team, the Rockers. Marty Jannetty will be there in a one-on-one match against self-made Travis Blake. I will be defending the IWF Heavyweight Championship against the Fifth Element, Roman Zachary, who's actually a former 3-time IWF champion, and he was also the man back in December 1999 who was the first student at IWF Wrestling School. So we also have the tag team titles, the American title, the junior title will be on the line as well. So stacks up to be a pretty good card with some great WWE legends as well.
So in the IWF, I mean, it sounds like you've got a nice mix of some homegrown talent. You've got some of the names. Now, I know the IWF, as you said, it's been around for a while. So you've had some big-name WWE guys doing things like hosting clinics and stuff, right?
Yeah, over the years at IWF Wrestling School, we've had Tito Santana, Dr. Tom Pritchard, who's the developmental coach for WWE at Florida Championship Wrestling in Tampa. We've had Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, John Bradshaw Layfield, Cowboy Bob Orton, Ken Shamrock, Young Stallion Jim Powers, the Honky Tonk Man. They've hosted clinics and seminars for the students and graduates at the wrestling school, and they also have competed on our live events, and it's the only way for younger wrestlers and up-and-coming talent to learn how to improve their skills is by learning by people who have made it in the WWE or, in the wrestling world.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen that were stars and legends. There's no handbook or textbook to learn how to be a professional wrestler. This business is pretty much handed down from generation to generation, so we tried to bring in those stars and legends to help teach our students.
Best way to do it, sounds like to me. So IWF, been around, as you said, over a decade. It's not really in operation anymore, is that right? This is just a one-night only show?
Yeah, we had the IWF Wrestling School for 12 years in northern New Jersey. In our 12 years, we trained just about 500 students, 30 of which have received tryouts for the WWE, 5 of which were signed. We recently just had Travis Blake and Absolutely Edwin were at the Raw and SmackDown in the Northeast in Philadelphia for Raw, and the Prudential Center in Newark for SmackDown back in March, receiving tryouts. It was time. I no longer wanted to wrestle anymore. my days were done, and I really didn't want to continue it. And we ended on a positive note with Real Deal Flex Freeman, former IWF heavyweight and American champion. He got signed by the WWE this past fall. He's now known as Dante Dash down in Tampa at FCW. So, that was it. And end on a high note, having five people signed by WWE as well as one by Impact Wrestling, Robbie E.
Yep.
There was really nothing more to do. I mean, I pretty much accomplished everything I wanted to do. And then this opportunity came up to do the big show in Nutley, so why not get the band and the best wrestlers that the IWF has ever seen. And again, pretty much on our show, we only use our homegrown talent, the guys that graduated from the wrestling school. So that's what we have on this event on April 28th is the best from the IWF in our history, as well as a couple legends in Tito Santana and Marty Jannetty.
Sounds like it's definitely shaping up to be a great show. Once they make it big, they get their shot, whether it's a dark match or whatnot. I know you had a couple guys on NXT, I believe, right?
Yeah, we've had Darren Young, who was known as Bone Crusher Fred Sampson in the WWE, and then also recently, in addition to Flex Freeman, who's now Dante Dash, we had Fadi, the Arabian Bull, former IWF champion. He was signed by the WWE and was down in Tampa for a while back in 2010.
So when those guys get their break, is there any kind of ritual that the school would kind of go through to kind of commemorate them getting that shot?
Yeah, we had a farewell ceremony for them at their last appearance with the IWF before they packed up their belongings and moved down to Tampa, Florida for bigger and better things. And the WWE was always nice enough to allow those guys, after they were signed, to continue to train with us and continue to wrestle on the IWF live events while they were, making their moving arrangements to move to Tampa. So at their last event with us, Fadi the Bull, which was in 2010, and then Flex Freeman, which was in October 2011, we had all their family and friends attend the live event and sent them off as big as we could to give them a nice evening and thank them for all they did for the Federation.
I'm sure the neighborhood's definitely going to miss out. It's always a lot of fun to be able to go out and watch some good wrestling on a Saturday night or Saturday during the day with the kids and whatnot.
I mean, also, too, times have changed where, Fadi the Bull was 6'5", 245 pounds. Real Deal Flex Freeman, pretty much the same, 6'5", 265 pounds. Those guys of that size these days are going to MMA training schools. That's what they want to pursue. So the crop to choose from at wrestling schools now is very thin, where the guys that quote-unquote look the part, they're going to MMA. They want to be in the UFC. They don't want to be in the WWE anymore. So it's a different ball game. As much as the WWE likes to say that the UFC and mixed martial arts is in competition, it is. Because at wrestling schools now, you don't have the big guys anymore. They're training with their eyes on, maybe being signed by Dana White in the UFC. So, it's a whole different ball game. The selection to choose from is a lot thinner.
I'm kind of glad that you brought up MMA, and perhaps you saw it on Raw recently with the return of Brock Lesnar. Do you kind of see that as, hey, maybe, wrestling is acknowledging the Ultimate Fighting world, and maybe we can sort of have another WWE, WCW type vendetta going on again?
I don't know. I think those days are over. I think evidenced by the fact of what the ratings were for Raw and SmackDown on the week leading up to WrestleMania. Now, in the 2000s, UFC and mixed martial arts has replaced wrestling as far as, guys want to see guys fight. And fights nowadays, it's the UFC. That's what guys want to see.
The wrestling business obviously underwent change over the past decade as you pointed out, as a result of MMA and the UFC and the like. So how have you seen it change as a booker when you're putting a card together and you know you have to get your guys that are your cruiserweights, your mid-sized guys, your main event larger draws? How have you seen things change over time?
Yeah, I mean, you basically have a lot of the smaller guys, like you said, the cruiserweights and the junior heavyweights, which is great, but you need the bigger guys. I mean, when you go to the circus, you want to see the elephants and the lions and the tigers. You can see cats and dogs all day long. You know, look around in your own living room or look outside. People or walking their dogs and cats, or go to the park. You see dogs and cats all day long. You know, if you saw an elephant or a lion or a tiger walking down the street, your head would turn. What the heck is that? Well, wrestling kind of needs the same thing. I mean, wrestling has always been a circus. You need a mix. You need guys of all shapes and sizes. Where to me, I think it's great, you know, this character that Brodus Clay is doing. It's different. He's a bigger guy. And the same with A-Train, who's now back in the WWE. It's great. He's different. He has a different look. He has a different size. You know, to me, wrestling is not about guys going out there with 8-pack abs, because wrestling is not a sit-up contest. You know, wrestling is, you know, who can out-wrestle or who could beat up the other guy and get the 3 count and get their hand raised. You know,
Right.
You need to have guys with a different look, different shapes, different sizes, so there's variety. And in a lot of independent wrestling, you know, there isn't really anybody in the ring that's over 6 feet or over 200 pounds. You know, it can't look like kids out there playing in the ring. I mean, a lot of independent wrestling just looks like backyard wrestling. It needs to look like professional wrestling, which is, you know, unfortunately, bigger guys.
And I guess that's the key, you know, to making a successful indie show. You got to make sure you have your breakout of your smaller guys, your larger guys, your draws versus your high flyers and that type of thing.
Yeah, it just can't be a bunch of, you know, 20-year-olds that are jumping off the ceiling doing flips, because, you know, if I want to see flips, I'll go and watch a gymnastic competition. I don't need to go to see professional wrestling to see flips. You know, like you go to a tumbling school or you know, watch the acrobatic fitness performance. You know, professional wrestling. You know, when it gets down to it, you just want to see, you know, 2 guys in a feud fight. I mean, nobody cares about, you know, in the grand scheme of things, mainstream wrestling audience, people don't want to see 2 guys go in the ring and exchange holds. You know, if they did, why isn't collegiate or you know, high school wrestling on Monday nights at 9 o'clock? It's not. Nobody wants to see 2 guys sit on the mat and exchange holds for 40 minutes. People want to see 2 guys larger than life going at it. You know, punches, kicks, forearms. You know, covering, as Dusty Rhodes would say. You know, I think that's what sells. I mean, UFC, when the guys are laying on the mat and they're working an arm bar for 15 minutes, it's boring. Nobody cheers in the sports bar. But in UFC, when guys are, you know, punching and kicking each other's teeth out, that's what gets the reaction from the audience. So it always comes down to the mainstream audience wanting to see a fight. And again, that's just my opinion. And
that's a fair point. Very fair point. Kev, let's talk a little bit about you. So you were a former sports broadcaster, is that right?
Sports updates. I did news updates, and I also did play-by-play announcing on radio and TV for pretty much every sport imaginable in college. And then after college, working at, you know, some small local radio stations. I did it, the sports broadcasting and PJing there as well.
And how'd you actually get your start in the wrestling business?
It was while working at a radio station when the local independent wrestling shows would come to town. You know, our radio station would co-promote the local wrestling shows and interview the wrestlers over the air and give out free tickets to the listeners. And in return, they'd have me come down as the local sports guy from the radio station to get in the ring and be a special guest ring announcer and hype up the crowd before the card would start. And being that I was 6'5", I was about, you know, 5 or 6 inches taller than pretty much every other wrestler on the show. And they said, wow, did you ever think about giving this a shot? And that was 16 years ago, back in 1996. And here we are in 2012, getting ready for one more match on April 28th in Nutley with the IWF.
So it's the culmination of Kevin Knight's career, would you say?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So you're going to go.
One last time, I couldn't turn the mayor of my town down, who's a great guy, as well as my friends that are on the fundraising committee for Relay for Life. And it's a great charity and a great cause. And all the net proceeds, are going to go right to the charity. With the ticket sales and all the money that's raised, they'll pay for the budget to put on the show, which we kept as small as humanly possible. This way we maximize the profits that will be donated to the charity. Excellent.
So, Kev, before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to throw out there? Maybe let the fans know how they can buy tickets?
Sure. You can get tickets online on the IWF website. It's campiwf.com. And then on our Facebook and on our Twitter as well, it's Wrestling IWF. So you could find us there as well, and it'll have all the information on how to get tickets to come out and see the Independent Wrestling Federation April the 28th in Nutley, which is in northern New Jersey, right off of Route 3 and Route 21 and the Garden State Parkway. So it's very easy to come out and see us.
Excellent. And here at 2xzone.com, we are absolutely advocates of the independent wrestling scene. So we wish you the best with the show. And just again, to reiterate, just so everybody hears it one more time, you can get your tickets at IWF's website. That's campiwf.com for the one-night-only charity event. And it's at the Parks and Recreation Building in Nutley, New Jersey. Family-friendly show. Saturday night, April 28th, and bell time is at 7:45. Just like Kevin said, all the proceeds go to the American Cancer Society, and you'll see superstars like Tito Santana, Marty Jannetty, Jim Powers, and of course, Kevin Knight.
Sounds good, Jason. Thanks for having me on the show, and keep up the good work with the website.
Hey, Kevin, want to thank you very much, and best of luck with the show, and all the best.
Thanks, Jason. You too.